Good looking now, G.
Everybody, let me tell you that it makes you beautiful, beautiful. Everybody, let me tell you that God made you beautiful, beautiful.
Hi, welcome to The Hype. The Hype is a show that gives a voice to young women about issues and topics that may relate to them. The Hype comes from a program in Philadelphia called CLA for African American women aged 14 to 18, teaching them about sexual health, healthy and unhealthy relationships, and female empowerment. My name is Miriam, and these are my co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Courtney.
Hi, I'm Keisha.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
And today on our show, we will be remembering the 9/11 attacks, and we'll be also talking about preparedness for emergencies, man-made or natural disasters. First, we would like to start with the question, where were you on 9/11?
In 9/11, I was in 8th grade. I was actually in my art class. It was right at the beginning of the school year. I just moved into this new school and everything, and the teacher had turned on the TV because she, I guess, got a text from another teacher. And when she turns it on, we see it's a shot of the Twin Towers, like there's smoke and there's a plane hanging out the building, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Some kids were like, oh, that's really cool. Like, they couldn't tell it, oh no, this isn't a movie, it's not an action shoot, it's like, this is real life. And it was just like kind of weird because it was just like a surreal thing, and then like everyone knew it was serious once like we heard the principal say we're going home early, make sure you get in contact with your family members and things. So it just kind of all set in once you got home and kept really seeing it, and then once my mom explained to me everything that was happening, it was it was a lot.
I was in the 6th grade, and I remember I didn't even know what was going on. I just knew that we were getting out early, and 6th grade, man, I was like, out school early, so I was just excited. But then I remember afterwards, it was like I was just scared of planes. I would see planes in the sky, and I would look up, and I'd be like, where's it going? Who's it hitting? Like, it was kind of like what the newscaster was talking about when they said talk to the kids and tell them what was going on, what was happening, because that may happen where they become scared of planes. And that was one of those kids. I saw a plane, and I was freaking out, like, oh my God, it's going to hit something, or hit somebody. So it definitely had an impact on me for a while.
Yeah, I was definitely in school in the 5th grade social studies class, and my teacher was like, oh, you guys are getting out early, so we're jumping up and down like, oh, we're getting out early, but then it hit us like, why are we getting out early? And at the time I didn't really know what the Twin Towers was, and I didn't realize how serious it was until I got home and I cut on the TV and was like, oh my goodness, let me call my mom and make sure that she comes home because they might hit downtown. So I was more nervous to the fact that they were going to come to Philly.
Yeah, I was in social studies class too. I remember sitting down, we were talking about the dollar bill and what it looked like and the meanings behind it and things like that, and the TV had just went off. We were watching the morning news and the TV had just went off automatically. So we were sitting and talking, having our discussion, and our science teacher runs in and he's like, turn on the television, we just had a terrorist attack. So instantly we knew something was serious going on. Like, nobody was joking, everybody was like, oh my God. But this guy, he's extra. So we were like, turn the TV back on. So we turned the TV on, and all we saw was smoke billowing out of these 2 buildings. And we were like, where is this? Like, why are you so hot? Kind of thing. We were just like, what are you? We're talking, and he was like, watch the television. We just had a terrorist attack, and we were like, what is a terrorist attack? And then he ran out of our classroom and just kept going to the other classroom. We heard him peeking indoors. Turn on the television. Turn on the television. So we were like, getting scared now. He put us all in a panic, and our teacher, our social studies teacher, he said, calm down guys, calm down. A terrorist attack is when people have anger or a problem against another person and they attack them, like a country, which our country has experienced a terrorist attack. And we were like, where is this? And we were like, it's in New York. And like instantly everybody's panicked because where I live, a lot of people have family in New York. Most people are from New York. And we were like, well, are we leaving? Can we go? Can we go home? But we were in South Jersey, and there's like no real threat to us. So they were like, no, you're not going home. But make sure we stayed in our classroom. We weren't allowed to leave. We stayed in the same class all day, and we just talked about it. We talked about different things in history that we experienced, terrorist attacks and everything like that, and like terrorist attacks in different countries and who might have caused it, and when you get home, make sure you talk about this with your parents, kind of thing. So it was really good being in social studies class with my teacher because he really taught us a lot and what to look out for and things like that, and be sensitive to this subject. You shouldn't panic, but you should be prepared. So, with that being said, we're going to go to the streets and see where everybody else was on 9/11.
Hi, we're here with Mark. So, Mark, where were you on the day of 9/11, and what were you doing?
Actually, I was in school. I think it was 6th grade. I'm not too sure right now. But actually, I was in class when it happened, and when I was a kid, I didn't really know what it meant, what was happening. So I was kind of like in the middle of being freaked out and very confused. So, and what I would do to like prevent that, or like what I would do if it happened again, I pretty much like instantly call my mom first, and then probably like try to get to safety.
So we're here with Dominic. Where were you on the day of 9/11, and what were you doing?
I was actually in Jamaica, like the Caribbean country, and I was on a plane. Like I was about to like head to the airport and board to come to America. So when it happened, my flight got stopped because everything got kind of paused, and I just watched it. I was a little kid at the time, like probably 12 maybe or something.
Wow.
And it was just shocking. Like all I could really think was just, wow, I can't believe they did that. I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what would you do to prepare for a man-made disaster or a natural disaster?
It depends. If it was like a natural disaster, like say a hurricane or something, like in Jamaica we have a certain time that we know, like during like August and that time we call it hurricane season. That's when all the hurricanes come around. So you know that like certain items like water, all that stuff you stock up on, canned goods you stock up on, batteries, batteries, because no matter even if they're overrated, like electricity can go anytime.
Right.
So just make sure you have the necessities and you'll be good. But if it's man-made, it all depends, because you never know. Like nuclear explosion can be a man-made disaster.
Okay.
So you don't know. Yeah.
All right. So where were you, and what were you doing on the day of 9/11?
I lived in Oakland at the time. I lived with my grandma, and I was asleep. And my cousin he was like doing delivery work, so he came by, he heard it on the radio, he came by and like knocked on the door and woke me up, and I was like really worried at first. I thought there was like an emergency to the family or something. And he was like, no, you won't believe this, you have, like, we got to turn on the television. And when he turned it on, what was extra crazy, I was so disoriented, California-centric at that time, I was like, they're attacking LA! But, you know, and then it sunk in what, like, but yeah, it was the Twin Towers, like a full-on catastrophic, tragic attack. Yeah. So that's where I was.
Okay. Now, what would you do to prepare for a man-made disaster or a natural disaster?
Water.
Water.
Feminine hygiene products.
Right.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm serious. When the stuff goes down, I'd say like hygiene and medical stuff first.
Wow. I couldn't imagine being on a plane and getting ready to board a plane when you're realizing that the Twin Towers had just hit, like Dominic just said. He was on a plane on his way coming home, finding out that the Twin Towers just hit. Like, that's a scary thing. That's a real scary thing. I couldn't imagine that. And like the other guy said, he was in class. So a lot of us that are around the same age were either in school or in some type of class at the time when the Twin Towers had hit. And like the other lady said, she was asleep, so she had no clue on what was going on. So it was like if you weren't in tune to the radio or watching the television, you had no clue on what was going on. And when you finally realized what was going on, it hit you like, oh my God, I can't believe that something like this has happened. And you might panic like, oh my God, are they coming to where I live? Mm-hmm. So it was a day definitely to remember.
Yeah, definitely. The next question that we asked was, how do you prepare for a natural or man-made disaster, we asked. And one of the guys, he was like, I really don't know. Like, I don't know what I would do.
Right.
Especially after we just had Irene and the earthquake, well, not earthquake, but the aftershocks, feeling those things. Like, how would you prepare? A lot of people don't really know.
Yeah, unless you experience, like, or have been in a situation you don't know. I know I've been in, like, hurricane situations, like, living down south. So we already have like our plan on what we do, especially in your tornadoes and like going through that whole drill. But especially in cities like in Philadelphia or New York, something like a Hurricane Irene or earthquake, people, like especially on the East Coast, you don't hear about that going on.
Right.
But I think it's really important to watch the news and see what they say, because we were being warned about Hurricane Irene, and they were telling us what to do. So they were giving us a plan. So if you don't pay attention to the plans, or you think it's being hyped up, then that's only going to be your fault if it comes towards you and you're not ready. So I think taking it serious when you hear people giving you warnings, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So
Okay, so we're going to go into our top 3 things to be prepared for a natural or man-made disaster. We'll start with Keisha.
Okay, so number 3, have a kit. Like I was saying, you want to have things in your house like water, food, batteries, flashlight, and extra batteries. You want to have plenty of batteries in case the electric goes out. You want to have a first aid kit, so your Band-Aids, gauze, Tylenol, any type of medicine that you may need. You want to have a whistle. It's good to have a whistle in case you have to signal for help. You want to have a dust mask in case, like how on the Twin Towers coming down, the dust in the air or any type of chemicals in the air, you want to have something to cover your face. You want to have a moist towel or garbage bags and plastic ties in case of a certain situation. We never know what may happen in a man-made disaster. You want to have pliers or some type of tools in case you have to turn on something or you have to cut through something. Also scissors. A can opener for your canned foods, because you want to definitely have canned foods, a local map, or a cell phone with a charger. And also now they have the battery chargers for your phones in which you can charge your phone through battery. So it'll have the piece to your charge of a phone, and it'll be powered by battery. So you might want to have that in the case of emergency also. Also, for females, you want to have sanitary napkins or anything you may need in case of that time of month. You also want to make sure that you have all types of your medications. If you have pets, make sure they have their food and water also. Cash, make sure you have cash in your kits too, because you never know when you may need that. So these are a few things that you want to have that are important.
Okay, number 2, as Ms. Keisha mentioned, get a plan. With your family, in case of emergency, decide where you all are going to go. Is there a certain family member out of town that you all are designated to call in case you are separated? Is there a certain location you need to meet up? If it happens at the house, where in the house do you need to meet? If there's a tornado or earthquake, or if it is a man-made disaster, where are you all to meet? Second, make sure that if you don't have a cell phone, in case cell phone towers are down, that there are coins or a prepaid card available for each family member, so that if cell phone towers are down and landlines are still active, that you can call that contact person. Also, teach everyone how to text message, or it's called short messaging service, which is SMS on the phone, so that everyone can text if you can't talk on the phone if there's no signal, as well as subscribe to alert services. There's a lot of places that give you text alerts, like when there's tornado warnings, hurricane warnings, like weather advisories. I know a lot of colleges and universities, they have on-campus advisories, especially like a Virginia Tech situation. There can be text sent out to students who subscribe to these services that you know where to go and what to do in case of an emergency.
And last, be informed. Not every emergency or disaster is the same, especially for your area. We got all this information from Ready.com, which is a FEMA, FEMA sponsored website. If you have any questions or concerns, you can visit ready.gov yourself and get all this good information, and be safe in times of need and disaster, man-made or natural. Thank you for joining us for The Hype another week. We hope to see you next week. Bye.
Good looking now. Everybody, let me tell you, back here with you, beautiful, beautiful. So beautiful, God made you beautiful, beautiful. Hey there, excuse me, miss, no disrespect, you're very precious. Please tell me what's your name. You're a precious gem and God's to blame. No, I'm not trying to spit the game, cause it's your soul I'm trying to claim. You probably never heard of